plan, oh grand and true, to bring back a custom just for you, a dowry's charm to rekindle the fire. In a world where romance might expire, he'd gather gold with wit and flair, pledging his heart beyond compare. For in the shimmer of that old dear gold lies a tale of love, both brave and bold.
What up, y'all? All right, we got some folks in here. I'm just gonna give it some time. I know a lot of you guys are probably watching the Argentina game, so watch out for that. Financial Frontier says, I have to speak up on this. Buying a house is easy and possible. Trust me, I advise people every day on this matter. Excited to see the live stream. Shout out to you, man. Do I got my sound effects ready? There we go. I should probably save some of these for when we get some more folks in. His dream was simple. Not seeing Klaus yet. I'm sure he'll be here. Hey, Mountain Man, welcome in, man. Don DeMarco. And, oh, we already got a super chat. Man, thanks for that. Walsh lists excuses. I haven't actually seen the video yet, but I just found it surprising because I would expect him on the side of the aisle he's on to kind of be more about, oh, you can do it if you just work hard kind of deal, you know? So I'm interested to hear why he thinks it's impossible or almost. U.S. home buying beats most places, high salaries, VA, FHA, credit programs, New York City versus Shanghai. Salaries 221% higher, price to income 11 times versus 30 times. Use American tools, actions greater than excuses. Thanks for those stats. I'm hearing those stats. I'm sure will make Americans feel better about our situation versus what it could be. That's crazy. Thanks for sharing that. Friend just got a duplex, got paid $1,000 to buy his first home. Can't wait. I've been getting back into shape, and getting a house is impossible in big cities. Very possible with the high-paying job in a fifth-tier city, as in fifth largest in state. Let's see. Kind of makes me want to make a poll. Do you want to be a homeowner? Okay. I'll put yes, no, and then I'll add an option for I already own my home. There we go. Back around. Sweet. Reaper put, good evening to you, sir. Good to see you. Just gonna give it one more song. Hopefully some folks come in. We can get things moving. Oh gosh. Okay, last song, then we'll get moving. It was 10 years ago when we tied the I got a couple videos. I'll just explain it after. The best thing I got. But now I'm here. Thanks for that 200 Thai bot there, Financial Frontier, man. I appreciate that. I wish there were some more people in here because I want to tell people to follow your channel, but I think it's a bit shy at the moment. After this song's done, we'll just get into it. Got my watermelon. Don DeMarco says it's got to be said you are signing up for a greater debt load. than past generations. My 100K house at 3% is now worth 400K. That sounds about right, man. I mean, similar to my parents' generation. That's about the same growth. Can't buy nothing in my area for 100K. Yeah, it's pretty much the same over here. Where I'm at, you could say the average house is about 500,000. About, I mean, there's some give on that, but you're looking to pay that much. I've heard mixed things about Canada too. I guess it just depends where in Canada you are. The bigger cities are probably a lot tougher.
But next time, make sure you secure it tight. Now I'm strumming my heart like a warm
Shaka. Hi, Shaka. Good to see you. Seeded, I hope. Man, I wish it was seeded. You know what happened? I bought a seeded watermelon, and I let it sit on my counter for a few days. And I ate just a little bit of it, and it tasted kind of like soap, so I threw it away. But I did get sick a little bit. And then I bought this non-seeded one from Costco. But the seeded watermelons are so much better. There's really no comparison. The meat's just different. Shaka says, I've never wanted to be a homeowner as I'd never owned the land. That's an interesting thing to think about too, man. I know what I don't know where you're at, but I mean, you know, if you go like 20 minutes south to where I am, you can get a couple acres and a house. It'll be about like 800,000. My buddy just got 3 acres and a house, and it was about that much. And if you mean by like never owning the land, you mean like property taxes and stuff like that, basically. The Jax Ali. Always a pleasure. Shaka, by the way, welcome in. I don't think I've seen you before, but I appreciate you being here. Okay, enough of the music. Then we got our Matt Walsh video. So, I mean, these are the 2 videos. We got this one. I haven't watched it yet. I mean, I saved it because I was kind of surprised to see this from Matt Walsh. So I was like, okay, well, maybe he's getting, I don't know. I was just interested to hear what he had to say. And then I did listen to a lot of his video, and he was talking about, oh crap, you can't see me. He was talking about a Harvard study where basically the Harvard study was basically saying that this kind of era that we lived through was a fluke, kind of. So this is the Harvard study. And then these were like a couple of just newspaper articles on it, just to make it easier. Dang, man, what's up with my newspaper article? Oh, here it is. Harvard's housing report has a darker message than affordability. The middle-class home was always a historical accident. So, I mean, you know, this is the study right here that article's referencing, basically. And I think more or less it kind of talks about that, you know, like it's comparing things to the Great Depression era. And then it's basically talking about what happened with World War II and how what happened after World War II kind of gave Americans this opportunity that is not normal. And now we're kind of similar, I guess, to pre-World War II. But I don't know. These articles could just be making it seem worse than it is. Yo, Dan the Man, welcome in, man. Always great to see you. Oh, by the way, Dan the Man made some hilarious AI content for us. Let's see this real quick. I asked him to make some based off of I don't know if you ever played God of War, but there's like where Kratos has to battle Hades. I thought this was so funny. That was just like the best. Man, I like the AI art. Thanks for those. Thanks for those, man. The AI art really keeps us going. Man, no Klaus yet. I know Klaus doesn't care about soccer, so he's not watching the Argentina game. That's okay. I'm in Florida now. I escaped that joint. Oh, you're in, okay, you are in the US. All right. Man, that's tight. Shout out to you, bro. I buy them from Sprouts. I have seen Sprouts have seeded watermelon. Sometimes I'll get lucky and there's folks that are on like the side of the road selling them out of the back of the pickup. And I'll be honest, those watermelons, I've gotten some good ones from. I'm thinking about moving to Florida, Vegas. If they pass that no property tax on homestead property, it'll be sweet. Is that a Florida only thing? That would be pretty cool. I've been sub, just never caught a live. Oh, cool, man. Well, I appreciate that. That you've been watching. I got to get some more lunch casts out. One thing I do want to get out next week is my discussion with Rich Cooper. So I just got to edit that. I basically kind of put a lot of stuff on hold because I was just preparing for that debate last Wednesday. So now that that's gone, then, you know, I can focus on some of that stuff. I'll probably do some of the editing tomorrow. Shaw was great in the debate this week, and the guy in the bottom right sounded like he was pooping or something half the time with this grunting. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm not really a debate guy. I mean, that I've never, you know, this is not the beginning of Shaw's debate bro arc, is all I'm trying to say. You know, like that just kind of happened to happen the way it did. I'm just excited to get back to regular programming over here. I'm glad you like them. Oh, no, they were great. Florida only, no property tax on your primary property, basically. Man, that would be great. I mean, you know, I'm in California, so we got kind of nightmare stories. A lot of people would try to do a kind of loophole, especially when they're passing property down, to keep the property tax what it is, if you put it in a trust and stuff like that. But, you know, you hear stories like you'll have like a school teacher who inherits like their parents' property in like Southern California, and it's now worth $1 million. So when it transfers to them, the property taxes get reassessed off the current value. So now you have a school teacher that has to pay like $30,000 in property taxes every year. And it's just not feasible. I mean, God forgive me for laughing. It's just, you know, it's just ridiculous. So they pretty much have to sell the house, you know. That dude will forever be talking about chicks. Born and raised. Oh, man, that kind of makes me want to bring up the AI art again. You know what? I should download the pictures. Oh, perfect. We'll put debate 1. That way I can make them full screen. We'll call this one debate 2. Save. These are too good. I've been wanting to play these games again. I did play the first one. It's been kind of hard for me to like kind of really sit down and get into a video game. Like I really am trying to, but it's just so hard to do that, you know. Let's see. Okay, where's my folder? Media, pictures. Here we go. All right, here we go. Oh, man, that's great. Born and raised in Cali, and I can never go back to live there, or back to live. I might be misconstruing what you're saying, but you were born and raised in Cali, but you moved out from Cali. I think you said you're in Vegas. Back to live. Oh, I can't even read it, hey, man. I hear you, man. It's tough. I'm trying to figure it out for myself. Like, I put the poll up for the. You know what? Let me actually just end the poll real quick so I can give you my thoughts on that. Do you want to be a homeowner? Most people said yes. 9% said no. 27% already own their home. Yeah, you know, I think about it like if I bought a house, I wouldn't want to do it right now because like it would just be me living in it. So like my plan is just saving, and then my plan is really to buy a house. Like if I bought a house, it would be because it's marital property. Like if I got married, you know, then it's like, okay, we're both putting in on a house. You know. Oh crap, where's my sound effects?
Your dowry, it's my right.
Basically, you know. So I think about that. But if I don't go that route, then it's like, well, maybe I'd want to get a house, you know. But at the same time, it's like, do I want to live in like a 3-4 bedroom house by myself? Not really, you know. So I kind of go back and forth. The more expensive houses that houses get too, I don't know. I remember like Coach Greg Adams talking about this. I think he even mentioned it in his book to some extent. He's, you know, especially with the free agent lifestyle, um, buying a house or certain things like that can make you maybe a little less maneuverable in terms of how you live your life. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing or anything. So it just depends what you want to do. So, you know, anyways, yeah, so 64% of people did want to be a homeowner someday. Man, like I would love to own a house that had like a really big backyard, something I can put like small livestock in. Like I'd like to have like chickens and some goats running around. Like it would be cool to like butcher your own meat at home. And obviously that's work and it's probably sounds a little bit like you don't want to be kind of too dreamy about it, I guess, but I just think that would be a great way to live, you know. That would be fantastic. During that debate, oh, speaking of, okay, yeah, let's get the picture back up. During that debate, it felt like we heard Mike breathe through his mic the whole time. I heard someone breathing through their mic, and I didn't know who was doing it. It was really odd. In the new God of War, you now play as a woman. Oh. Probably not going to be in a rush to play the game. Maybe it's okay. We'll see. Chatting with Rolo would be cool. He would probably be into your child support background and dowry research. Yeah, I mean, you know, it was pretty cool being able to chat with Rolo. Like, I mean, you know, I've seen his work for a long time, so I did appreciate that we were able to have, you know, a conversation on some level. And, you know, he mentioned something about possibly inviting me out there. I don't know if that'll come to fruition, but, you know, if it does, then I would try to make it work earnestly. The child support stuff would be kind of fun. So, but yeah, you know, we'll see what happens. If it does, I'll probably put a little bit of lead time. I'm going to Canada again next month, and I'd like to hope if I had something planned with them, then it, you know, I wouldn't have to take too much time off. Really, like if they did it on a weekend, I can just take like a Friday off and beat them on a Saturday. But we'll see. So who knows? Yeah, that camera is dope. Oh man. Yeah, thank you for that, Shaka. So, yeah, real quick, sorry. These ones are just too good right here. I like the idea of the gold pill as a sphere. You know, the thing about the gold pill stuff is that the whole dowry research and this, a lot of that stuff, like a lot of my, I guess you could say motivation other than finding it really interesting was that I was thinking about like tradcons a lot. You know what I mean? Like it really was like I'd see like Matt Walsh and he would say, you know, oh, well, we've been doing this for thousands of years and it works and all this kind of stuff. And I'd be like, well, let me look into thousands of years and see what was really happening. So it's like the gold pill spear, so to speak, you know, was originally, I had tradcons in mind, and then it just happened to be a little friction with red pillars, I guess, to some extent. Anyways, yeah, I've been chatting for a while. Let's go ahead and watch this and see what's going on. So, you know, Matt Walsh usually makes decent stuff. I mean, we got 11,000 likes. Financial Frontier seems to really disagree with this. But let's go ahead and just see what the deal is.
Here's a headline you probably haven't seen, even though it will have more impact on your life and your children's lives than anything coming out of the Middle East. By the time millennials hit retirement age, the typical home in this country will cost $1 million. That will be the median price of a home, not just new homes, but any home by 2050.
See, this is why I put dowry in the thumbnail title. And the reason is because as homes become more expensive, it's like you're gonna have to be a lot more strategic for how you buy homes. And it reminded me of a dowry newspaper article that I saw. So I was looking at that Harvard report, well, at least the article about it and the report a little bit. And it was talking about pre-World War II, and I guess less than 50% of people actually were able to own homes or owned homes back then. And we're kind of closing in on a similar situation like that. And I had found a newspaper article from the Depression era that basically talked about a hidden dowry system in America, so in the United States. And one of the things I've talked about on people's shows is that, and on this channel, is that as housing and stuff gets more expensive, people are going to have to be more long-term minded when they think about their marriages and how they think about getting into home ownership, especially for their children and how they're going to do that, you know? So one of the things that the recent Harvard report mentioned was that there's a lot more home ownership going through inheritance or from cash gifts from parents, basically, than from like wage earning. So I just thought it was interesting to me because it reminded me of this article right here. So this is from the St. Louis Star and Times from 1936. What's interesting about this article is that I might have showed this one to you guys already. But what's interesting about this article is that it says they're out of the Depression era, but I think if we look in our history books today, technically 1936 is still part of the Depression. So, you know. But the part that's interesting here is that there was an insurance survey in 160 American cities. And their survey found that, so indicates bestowing of financial gifts on marriageable daughters is increasing in America. So as times were getting really hard and housing prices were going up, you were starting to see this kind of dowry-esque system start to kind of naturally take hold in the space, like not the space, but in the states, basically. And when I read that Harvard report, or I saw, you know, some of this stuff about it, it just reminded me of this. And I'm like, uh-oh, dowry system incoming, you know? So it talks about it right here. Uh-oh. Ah, crap. Oh, here we go. Sorry. A survey of pastors in 160 American cities by a large insurance company discloses that the dowry system, patterned after the long-established European custom, is still holding on. Particularly is this true among the moderately well-to-do. So I guess you could say upper middle class. Many parents are giving financial help to prospective grooms to make marriages of children possible. You know, and there's a whole article about it here. I really like this picture. Actually, my paper that's going to be published in New Male Studies, I actually use this as one of the images. So you can see the groom, and here's his bride-to-be, and here's the father-in-law packing on some gold.
Oh, dowry, it's my right.
So anyways, yeah, keep that in mind, basically, as we watch this, because that's what I'm planning to do. TradCon is the most dangerous relationship possible. TradCon is like playing marriage on the hardest level. Not at first, but at year 10 plus. Oh, I believe it. I mean, I don't disagree with that. Your name sounds familiar. Okay.
Now, put another way, if you have a child today, then by the time your child is looking for a place to live, they'd better have like $200,000 saved up for a down payment. And for the rest of their lives, in all likelihood, they'll be paying off a debt that's completely insurmountable. And this is not a projection from some crackpot looking for attention. It's coming from one of the top housing economists in the nation. Quote, essentially, in about 25 years, the national median home price will be $1 million. Lawrence Yun, chief economist at the National Association of Realtors, said at a conference in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. It may be hard to envision that, but back in 1990, the national median price was $90,000. Yun noted that even San Francisco, considered an exorbitantly priced real estate market at the time, had a median price of only $250,000 in 1990.
Man, that's crazy. So it'll be about $1 million. Man, okay, I'm sorry. Am I seeing a golden paved road on this picture? That must have been the AI or something. Hey, Shot. Hey, good to see you, Brute, man. Shout out to you. How are you? I'm in here for, say, 45 to 50 minutes. Can't stay too long. No worries, man. Thanks for coming in and saying hi. Anyways, but I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. We're just sitting here. It kind of reminds me of Coach, you know, when he would say the barbarian is at the gate. Well, according to this article, the gate is about to get torn down. if not already been torn down. This is what I mean. So it's like if people are considering marriages and like how do you get into a home, some intergenerational wealth might play a role, and same thing with both parties bringing something. Kind of like, the dowry ethos. The other problem is going to be divorce. It's like if houses are this expensive, people aren't going to be willy-nilly just betting on their marriage is working. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think the culture is going to change very much so if houses go to being this expensive, Something's going to change here. And I think it's going to be basically similar to this article here. So, interesting.
Now, for comparison, as of right now, the national median sales price for existing homes is roughly $430,000. So as high as housing prices are right now, you can expect them to be much higher, more than double, in just a couple of decades. This economist quote...
I got to be honest, I'm not surprised by that. That's kind of where I felt it was going too. It just kind of makes you wonder. It's like, what can be done to try to prevent this or keep wages up? But I mean, it just doesn't look, it doesn't look possible, because it's like, this is from that Harvard study. The middle class home was always a historical accident. So it's just looking, I'm glad Financial Frontier is here. He seems to be more positive on this. Otherwise, this is going to be kind of probably not the most optimistic stream you've watched this week.
Use multiple scenarios to project home prices out into the future, and says each scenario pointed to roughly the same timeline to hit $1 million, about 25 years. Now, to be clear, although the economists determined that we'd hit $1 million as part of ordinary appreciation in home prices, inflation is not the only factor here. Inflation alone won't get us to this figure, and there's reason to believe that typical home prices will actually exceed $1 million by 2050, and probably by a lot. And in a moment, we'll talk about some of those reasons and what we can do about them. But first, I want to talk about the story of 31-year-old Micah Longmire. And this is a true story. I found the details in a small online-only paper called the Missoula Current. And according to the paper, Micah earns a salary of $200,000 a year. That's a high salary by any measure, more than double the median household.
$200,000 a year is more than enough. I'm interested to hear what his problem is, because he otherwise seems to be doing fine.
Income in this country. The average lawyer in this country doesn't make $200,000. So you might think Micah is doing pretty well, all things considered. But after looking all over the country for more than 2 years, Micah and his wife determined that they couldn't afford to buy a home on their own, at least not without taking on a mortgage that they weren't sure they could afford. Yes, even though he's making a salary that puts him in the top 10% of American incomes, he was not able to lock down a home despite...
I mean, so it's all going to depend on the down payment. If they can slam like $250,000 as a down payment and the average home's about $500, then he should be okay.
Looking for 2 years in a variety of markets. In the end,
they probably are looking for a home that's more than $500. It sounds like he's looking for one that's about $800.
A solution was to pool some money together along with his wife's parents, and together...
There you go. Wife, parents, hey!
Your dowry, it's my right.
But okay, all right.
They bought a 3,500 square foot, $600,000 home.
Situation? Exactly. Let's get down to brass tacks here.
Which one of these broads has the richest father?
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't used these in a while.
There was a dowry or a bride price.
All right, okay.
In Chattanooga, Tennessee, for the entire family. Micah now lives with the in-laws.
Okay, so yeah, it's basically like a joint family system going on, which honestly, man, that's kind of a good thing. They'll have kids, grandparents will be there. I mean, kind of sounds like good times. It's a pretty big house. I'm not against that. In ancient and even early modern Jewish and Arab household formation systems, the newly married groom would live adjacent to his parents in married siblings and uncles' households. Yeah, that sounds like your patrilineal marriage pattern there, where the wife is married exogamously out and lives near the groom's parents. And we're kind of neo-local nowadays, where people just tend to live where they want, not necessarily next to anybody's parents. I think it's wise though for families to cluster together in that way. Thanks for that, Brute Man. That's an interesting take. Middle class accident. Not in the same home, but would build a new home adjacent to. Yeah, exactly. They'll have their privacy. I believe this type of household formation keeps costs low for setting up a new household in ancient and early modern Jewish and Arab societies. There is no way houses will get this crazy. People won't have kids, which is the phase we are in. That's kind of the confusing part about this. I mean, so on the one hand, you have economists saying that, but I don't know. I mean, TD Boy, I can understand what you're saying. Yeah, if people aren't having kids, then why would they be that high if there's not much of a demand for it? But I think that might signal other things about the economy that won't be so good to make a house that expensive, even if there is less people. Kind of in the same way that Depression era United States homeownership was very hard to attain. So there wouldn't have been that many people then, but it was still very expensive compared to wages. But I don't know if it's as simple as, well, if people aren't having kids, then, you know, but who knows? Yeah, if there's not that many kids being born, maybe it'll be like a kind of, I don't know, golden age for these folks because they're part of a very small generation. Okay, moving on.
And as he put it, quote, I make $200,000 and I wouldn't have been able to buy a house by myself. That's ridiculous. And it is ridiculous. Now you can take.
It is ridiculous. So how's the guy supposed to be the sole provider? This is for someone making $200K. And then you have your no-fault divorce system that can completely, so you're going to put all this money in a house and then your marriage gets wrecked. The stakes are just too high now to be making irrational decisions like this at this point, you know? So what this guy ended up doing makes complete sense. The wife's parents put in on it. And it makes sense that it's the wife's parents and not his parents because he's already being the provider, right? Just like how the dowry system is organized. He's the provider. They're buying in and putting in the seed capital to form the foundation of the household, which is then going to grow over time. So you got a kind of hidden dowry system here. You can see the seeds starting to sprout.
Issue with the idea that Micah truly couldn't afford a home. Many of you listening to the show probably purchased a home with an income lower than $200,000. You might have even done that recently. And you might think that he could have picked a smaller house in a different area and everything would have been fine. But before I address that objection, I need to make the point that Micah's story is not unusual. Just a couple of days ago, Fitch, one of the big three global credit rating agencies, downgraded the U.S. home building sector from neutral to deteriorating because people are not buying homes anymore. 30-year mortgage rates are over 6%. Consumer sentiment, meaning how pessimistic people are about their finances, is at a record low. Going back to the 50s, even through the 2008 financial crisis, the surveys of consumer sentiment were not as dire as they are right now. So while it may be the case that people like Micah could theoretically purchase a home somewhere if they're willing to make more compromises, the fact remains that they aren't doing that. Lots of people aren't doing that. And we need to figure out why. And I'm not cherry picking anecdotes or statistics here. Every possible indicator is sending the same signal. Here's another one. Real estate.
Yeah, I mean, families are going to have to employ a completely different strategy than what they've been doing in order to make this happen. You know, I think parents are really going to have to think about their children's marriages in a way that they just haven't been doing for a few generations.
Agents are quitting in droves right now. It's another thing you might not have heard about. This is data from the National Association of Realtors. It shows the number of members in the Realtors Association, the light blue, and the number of existing homes for sale, which is the darker line. From 2012 to 2022, membership in the association grew every year, and now it's steadily declining. The Association of Realtors now has just 1.4 million members compared to 1.6 in October 2022. And as the chart shows, for most of this century, there have been far more homes for sale than realtors. And that's the kind of ratio you want. That's a healthy ratio. But that hasn't been the case for several years now. Realtors are competing over a very small number of homes. And on top of that, A recent legal settlement means that realtors have to disclose their fee up front, which is leading many home buyers to handle the process themselves.
Wow. Well, I'm glad somebody made that a legal requirement. Thank you, whoever did that.
Which also isn't helping things for the industry. So to give you an idea of how quickly the housing market has become unaffordable, take a look at this chart from the Wall Street Journal just the other day. They're getting their data from the Intercontinental Exchange, Angie, and the Labor Department. If you're buying a home now as opposed to 2019, then on average, you're paying 22% more in principal. This is just from 2019 again. 35% more in interest, 31% more in property tax, 72% more in insurance.
Man, this is some really interesting information right here.
85% more in home maintenance, and 175% more in emergency repairs.
85% more in home maintenance. 175% more in emergency repairs. Like it's almost like they don't make the houses as good anymore. You know what I mean? It's like you buy a house, it's made out of freaking foil paper. So you have to spend more money to just constantly maintain it. Fun. Okay. In Southern Europe, it was known as the Zadruga. Ooh, thanks for teaching me that word. I'm gonna look that up right now. I love that. You know, I was just looking at the Russian word, which I think is like Predanoia or something like that. Zadruga. Dang it. I'm getting a bunch of Serbian stuff here, but no translation. Cooperative. Okay, like the joint family household. Nice. Zadruga. Thanks, man. You just helped me learn a new word. I'm a big fan of that. I would love to do the application and process versus talking about stories. World War II and etc. Most people won't even apply or do the action since they believe it's not possible. I mean, I'm sure that's a big part of it. You know, a lot of people, including myself too, like, are not going to have the experience. Like, for a lot of people, you know, the home purchase is going to be the biggest purchase that they ever do in their lives. So it's a big deal. And then, you know, it depends what's on the table for Americans to be able to take advantage of. The right has excuses just like blacks on the left. They are financially illiterate. I don't know. Like when I look at Matt Walsh, they're typically supposed to be the pull yourself up by the bootstraps type. That's why I was like, wait a minute, Matt Walsh is saying this? Screw that. Chicks make noise sometimes. When I'm hooking up, don't need parents in the vicinity. Bruteman says, think BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and other high net worth investors who buy real estate units in bulk for investment purposes. I believe that's the main reason why real estate prices are so high. That's an interesting point. I mean, because it goes against the point of if there's not that many kids being born, I don't know. There's still these other entities that would buy homes, and I'm trying to think what would keep the prices up. Rich people's kids will pair up, and poor people will pair up and get poorer. Rich will get richer. At some point, it will all collapse, and I predict bloodshed in 20 years. With home prices like this, there's sure to be some friction. I'll say that. You know, I mean, I don't. You know, God forbid. I just mean. There's a higher chance, possibly, not sure to be.
So your total annual bill is 40% higher than it would have been just 6 years ago.
Man, that's crazy.
It's like catastrophic. If you're the average American, your annual expenditure on housing went from $20,600 to $28,500. It's almost $30,000. And it's worth taking a brief detour, though. We also mentioned.
See, it's like with house prices like that, an economy that looks like that. It's like if you're two people and you're married, and you're in a house and you're able to save money and do some wealth building, a divorce would pretty much surely, at least greatly, diminish the future of your children, unless they really can figure it out with money making. You know what I mean? But divorce is that. Anytime a divorce happens, it's I think makes it tougher for the children's future because there's less money in the the family, fund basically to go around, depending. But with prices like this, I mean, it would make it even worse.
Mentioned property taxes. It's worth taking.
Heroes Forge. Hey man, welcome in. Shout out to you. Yep, I've been in construction for almost 30 years. I know at least here in Vegas, houses are made out of plywood. Yeah, it seems that way. Like a lot of these newer, that's just what I got from that table he showed us. If housing repairs and maintenance costs are up that much, it must be because the houses aren't made as well as they used to be.
A brief detour to focus in on the property tax figure. Home prices are going up around the country, and so are property taxes.
Yeah, that's what California's got us on that.
The fun thing about a property tax, of course, is that you can never pay it off. It's an expense that the government tax on, money that you owe them simply because they say so, money you owe them as a penalty for, committing the sin of buying property, and there's no end point. There's no such thing as a final payment. CBS News reported recently, quote, property taxes across the U.S. are rising faster than inflation, with the average homeowner last year paying $4,427, up 3.7% from 2024, according to a new analysis from real estate data firm ATTOM. By comparison, the Consumer Price Index, a basket of commonly purchased goods and services, rose 2.7% last year. Homeowners in some states have faced...
Oh, man, Heroes Forge, thanks so much for that super chat. Appreciate that. We did take some time to recognize Shaw for standing his ground and making a good showing on Wednesday, right? We chatted about that a little bit. I was recognizing some of the pictures that Dan the Man made here. So, yeah, you could see that this is a graphic representation. This is an artistic representation of Wednesday's events. Basically. Thank you for this, Dan the Man, man. We love the artwork over here. So yeah, we were appreciating these earlier, Heroes Forge. Thank you so much for that super chat. That means a lot. Financial Frontier says, let me just get our Matt Walsh back. BlackRock and etc. account for below 1% of supply, and those companies manage capital for a return for retirement accounts and pensions. They don't own the assets. It's called AUM, assets under management. That's interesting right there. Thank you for that. The return is for average people. I hear you. So the return is for people's pensions and retirements. Interesting. Yeah, there's a kind of hypocrisy there, I guess. I don't know if you call it hypocrisy, but it's like on the one hand, people are upset that they're investing in the houses, but on the other hand, it's also because, people want their retirement, and that's one way to do it. Right.
Considerably larger property tax increases, including an 18% hike in Delaware and a nearly 12% jump in Maryland. So it seems like there's some sort of conspiracy to deliberately make owning a home as expensive as possible, well, you're not crazy for noticing. Now back to the Journal report, quote, sales of previously owned homes have held around 4 million a year since 2023, the lowest level in decades, and down from a pre-pandemic norm of between 5 million and 5.5 million a year, according to the National Association of Realtors. That means fewer prospective buyers are accessing home ownership, and many of those who are buying homes are stretching their budgets to do so. Those new homeowners are vulnerable to falling behind on payments if their incomes drop or they face unexpected jumps in home ownership costs.
Let me see. Let me see if I can't remember if it was this article. This part was just interesting to me. The inheritance economy. So remember, this article says the middle class home was always a historical accident, and that's based off this Harvard report. Do I still got that up? This report right here. But it says, oh crap, is there two of the same article? Oh, here we go. That explains it. What makes the current moment distinct from prior affordability crunches, the early 1980s say, or the aftermath of the 2008 crash, is not just severity, but structure. Homeownership is increasingly behaving less like something earned and more like something inherited. Aggregate homeowner equity reached $34 trillion in the fourth quarter of 2025, up 88%. And what Harvard dubbed an astounding 16 trillion since 2019, the average homeowner held about 295,000 in home equity. The Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco found that children of homeowner parents who extracted equity accumulated roughly 1/3 more housing wealth by age 30 than children of renters. A May 2026 NBER study using data on more than 3.4 million families found that housing capital is substantially more persistent across generations than earnings, and that less than half of that persistence can be explained by what children earn. So I wonder if that really has to do with, what would you say? I mean, maybe like boomers are kind of hitting this period where they're starting to pass on and wealth is starting to be transferred. So maybe that could be one reason why it looks that way. So I don't know, just another thing worth pointing out. That's exactly one reason I said I don't want to own the property taxes. In the Byzantine Eastern Roman Empire, the dowry, proika, I'm probably pronouncing that right. In Greece, they say proika, was balanced by a groom's wedding gift. Donatio propter nuptias, and that's citing both the bride and groom had to bring something to the table. I've read about the Donatio propter nuptias. There's a paper on that. Let me see if I can find that. I think that was more common. There was the morning gift. Let me see. I don't think that's entirely accurate, Brute Man, especially in like more recent Greece. But you're talking about Byzantine Empire, Eastern Roman Empire. Let's go and see. Let's see what we can dig up on that. Donatio propter nuptias. Legal concept referring to a gift made before or during a wedding by one spouse to another. The other thing that would be important about that too is looking at the relative value of either of those, basically. Something tangible to the table. Yeah, that we are all about something tangible to the table. All right, let's just go ahead and get back into this. Sorry, I keep losing my video here. There we go. Okay.
A buyer with a $2,500 monthly budget and a 20% down payment can afford to buy a $517,500 home at a 3% mortgage rate, according to real estate brokerage Redfin. At today's rate, around 6.5%, that same buyer can only afford a $384,000 home. Even though rates have climbed, typical home values remain near record highs, according to Zillow, confusing many buyers who have been waiting for prices to fall. And the last part is important. Normally, when interest rates go up, you expect home values to go down, and you're paying more for interest over time, so you expect that your upfront costs will be lower. This is normally how things work, and it makes sense that it would work that way, but in practice, that's not happening anymore. In most markets, there's nothing to offset the high interest rates at all. The homes have higher list prices and higher costs over time. It's a lose-lose. One of the reasons that the conventional wisdom doesn't apply anymore is that nobody wants to sell their home. And why would they? In many cases, they locked in an extremely low interest rate during the pandemic. And as we've already discussed, they can expect a very large return on their investment in the coming decades. But even after several decades, they won't want to sell because their children will need to live somewhere.
Yeah, but see, this is what's going to bring back old school inheritance and a sort of dowry-esque system, because you have multiple kids. There's going to hit a point where they're not all going to live in the same house. So the house is going to need to be sold, and they're each going to get their portion, basically. And they're going to have to really be wise on how they use that portion to parlay it for their house. You know what I mean? So the timing on that wouldn't make sense, because, the kids would be older, basically, by the time their parents pass away. That's where the dowry system made sense, because it's like, it's a very elegant way to thread wealth intergenerationally, because the women are getting their inheritance at marriage. So you might take out a little mortgage, say you have a $600,000 house, you might take out another 200 grand on that to get your daughter married. And that would set them up in a house, and then they're paying on that. And then the son, if they had a son in the house and we lived in that kind of society, when he got married, he would his wife would have something like that, and that would put them in a house. Then later on, the sons would get a boost from when the original house gets sold and apportioned out between the sons there, and then that would either slam at the house and be done with that, or it would just build wealth, basically. I'm doing a very convoluted job of explaining that. 16 out of 195 countries don't charge property taxes annually. It's not a U.S. government being evil. You can always get naked and live with tribes in Papua New Guinea. Generally do not pay property taxes. I mean, some states in the U.S. I think don't charge property taxes. So it's not really like a countrywide thing. What states in the U.S. Do not pay property taxes? I think Florida might be one of those, actually. Oh, no, never mind. I'm wrong. No U.S. state eliminates property taxes entirely. Woo-wee. Okay, you just have some really low ones. Man, what is California's property tax? I just want to see how it compares to those. That's me. I ain't selling nothing. Exactly. Property taxes feature a 1% base rate. That's not horrible. That's not horrible. Well, and another thing too, Don DeMarco, right? So it's like, if you're in this situation where it's like the housing market is what it is, like people are just going to have to look at marriage completely differently. Because if it's this hard to get a house and you can lose your butt in a divorce and then effectively be homeless, it's like if someone else is going to be in here and be part of this, you're going to have to buy your way in case this goes belly up, None yet. Come on, Florida. Yeah. Hoping it works out in Florida, and that'd be great.
If they will even pass their house down to their children, which we'll get to in a second. If the median home is going for $1 million, then many more homes are theoretically going to remain in the family. You've heard me talk about Boll & Branch.
I mean, if we're learning anything from this, guys, it's that we really got to think long term and think strategically when it comes to planning, especially if you got kids. For the folks that got kids out there, man, I tried to do my jump ahead. I don't know what's going on.
Exclusions apply.
Okay. In the Byzantine Empire, household formation was a result of financial contributions from both families legally combining the bride's dowry and the groom's prenuptial gift into a protected joint estate. And listen, I think that's good, right? Like, you got both people putting in the capital here that's necessary to form a home. So, yep, shout out. No marriage for me. Yeah, gosh,
A lot of people want to invest, but they approach it the same way they approach a New Year's resolution.
And I don't know. I think a lot of people with daughters too. Like, if it gets this bad, kind of like he's talking about, like, you're gonna have to sit there and think, like, man, is my daughter just gonna be out here just essentially being a beggar, and you know what female beggars often do. God forbid. Then you have to think, okay, how am I gonna get them into a situation that's good for them? You know what I mean? And some kind of dowry situation might fix that problem.
Resolution. They get excited for a week, make a few moves, check their account every 5 minutes, and then lose interest when they don't become Warren Buffett by Friday. Building wealth usually isn't that exciting. It's about consistency. It's about developing good habits.
Oh, he's still on the advertisement. My bad, guys. I thought I hit jump ahead.
This is offered by Stash Investments, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk. You don't have to be hiding something in order to care about privacy online. Even if you have nothing to hide, the fact is your internet...
Oh my God, it's not stopped yet.
So here's an experiment. Take a look at this $700,000 home in San Francisco, California, one of the most desirable and expensive housing markets in the country. And it underscores just how bad things are out there. It's a 1,200 square foot dump, as you can see. The listing calls it a diamond in the rough with immense potential, which is always a good sign.
$717,000.
Right? When you're spending $700,000 on a home, that's what you want, immense potential. And we've all come to accept this kind of price disparity because of the principle of supply and demand. So we don't think about it. But here's what you can get for the same price in Detroit, Michigan, which is a far less desirable or expensive housing market than San Francisco. This is the exact same price. So $700,000 in the Midwest gets you basically a castle. It's 5,300 square feet, 5 bedrooms, a wood-paneled library. It's centrally located, 15 minutes to downtown, 20 minutes to the airport. A home that would be at least $2 million or more in Nashville or New York or Los Angeles, or even in suburban Detroit. Now, $700,000 certainly isn't cheap, but that's not the point. The reality is that real estate markets are hyper-local, and there are pockets of affordability out there. So you could still buy nice, livable $250,000 homes in many rural areas or small cities like Toledo. So what's really going on with housing? This is the first big issue. Is that
I built a 100 million AUM investment firm in 1 year. I love real estate and know it well. Don't ask for a housing application. The loan officer will spit on me. Michael S. LL, dowry is a requirement. Absolutely.
Your dowry. It's my right.
Move to Detroit, Shaw. I know, right? Probably not the first top on my list.
everybody wants to live in the same places, which is driving prices in those places up astronomically. San Francisco and New York and Boston and Nashville are boom towns. Detroit, Fort Wayne, and Gary aren't. Though to be fair, this is starting to change, and the Midwest is posting its first net migration gains in decades, driven largely by relatively affordable, houses compared to the coast. One factor driving this is jobs. San Francisco is the tech capital of the world. They have a lot more jobs there. But that's still kicking the can down the road. I mean, you're not addressing the fundamental issue, which is that something caused cities like Detroit to become so undesirable in the first place. Something caused cities like Detroit to become undesirable investment opportunities for job creators. Yes, the auto industry took a major hit. That's the default explanation for what's happened here. But plenty of industries in San Francisco have died since the 1960s as well. San Francisco used to be a manufacturing powerhouse.
When I think of San Francisco, I think of sourdough.
There was a major shipbuilding presence in the city. They also refined a lot of chemicals. None of that applies anymore. It's moved across the bay. So in many historical respects, San Francisco and Detroit are more similar than they appear. But over the past half century, one city managed to attract job seekers and investment while the other basically died out. This brings us to the second reason housing is out of control, which is urban crime has made many cities unlivable, which has led millions of people to rule out what should be some of the prime real estate in the country. So this is not as simple, by the way, as some people will say, as saying, oh, well, you just have to move. There are houses that are affordable. You just have to move there. Well, the problem is that in many cases, you don't want to move there.
You think of the rainbow version?
Oh, no, not the rainbow version. Never mind. That says rainbow.
Thank you for that. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
Because you don't want to get stabbed and you don't want your children to get stabbed while you walk down the street. I mean, that's the issue. And if you look at the demographics, the distinction between the two cities is hard to miss. San Francisco is around 5% black. Detroit is closer to 80%. And as you'd expect, based on the statistics, this is just the reality. Detroit has 3 times the violent crime rate of San Francisco. Could that be why
All right, Matt, come on.
no one wants to live there? In school, you're taught that the causation works the other way, that these cities are violent because they've been abandoned and forsaken by everybody else. But maybe it's the opposite. Maybe these cities have been abandoned and forsaken precisely because they're violent and dysfunctional. And maybe if we address the
I guess it could go either way, or they're violent and dysfunctional because there's no industry there.
violence and
Chicken
dysfunction,
egg.
then virtually overnight, we can have infinitely more housing stock than we do right now. We can have the houses that are already available, but you could have communities that people want to live in because they're not going to get stabbed while they walk down the street. Now, you never hear about cleaning up the streets, maybe going full citizen vigilante on criminals. Although ideally it would not be the citizens doing this, it would be the police. But you rarely hear it expressed as a housing policy, but that's exactly what it is. It's the single most straightforward way to address a problem that we all know exists. Now, Detroit is an interesting case study, actually, on this, because since the city's bankruptcy in 2013, a consortium of billionaires revitalized the downtown, which is now actually a thriving commercial district. And a lot of people don't realize that. They did this in conjunction with the city and state, which started aggressively policing the area and by encouraging downtown businesses to hire private security. And as the downtown and surrounding areas became safer, people started moving back into the city.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, prices out of buying a house in my neck of the woods, renting until single median income can afford a reasonable interest rate. 2 to 3 bedroom house. Yeah, man, the interest is a tough part of this.
And if those trends continue, hundreds of thousands of vacant homes in Detroit could come back online. But despite those successes, no one is supposed to even float the idea of actually fixing the cities, of making them places you want to live. Instead, the universal message is that we just have to accept the way they are. Ed Sheeran just went on Theo Von's podcast to talk about how London is sketchy and dangerous. And instead of suggesting the government fix the problem, which they could pretty easily.
I think we're kind of past the housing stuff in this video. Looks like we got some crime stuff. It kind of seems like that's where this is going. Come on, man. Any second now. What's going on with my internet? 2557.
Oh, yo! $50 Corey!
Okay, so yeah, I think I could say the next 20 minutes of this video is going to be about this.
And kind of took on a life of its own, and now
normal situation that merits investigation. In lower skill occupations lagged behind while professional salaries pulled away. As immigration enforcement has increased, that gap has narrowed. Take construction, which relies heavily on immigrant labor. Wages in the sector grew at roughly 2.5% annually between 2010 and 2017. Now BLS data shows construction wages growing at 3.1% through the first quarter of 2026, above the sector's pre-enforcement baseline, even as broader private sector wage growth cooled to 3.4%.
Okay. So we got some stuff on immigration.
An increase in unauthorized immigrant was even with the knowledge that Joe Biden's administration imported tens of millions of illegal aliens and broke the country. It still seems really shockingly high. And indeed, this is from a recent paper published by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Quote, we find that during the boom period, an increase in unauthorized immigrant worker flow equal to 1% of a local area's initial employment increased local housing prices by 2.2% and increased local rents by 1.4%. The impact on rent.
Unauthorized immigration on the broader lower economy. So illegal immigration
is slightly smaller for single-family units and slightly larger for multifamily units. A back-of-the-envelope calculation suggests that unauthorized immigrant worker flows can explain about 30% of the total growth in house prices and 20% of total growth in rents over the boom period for the average local market. This is one of the reasons why it's getting harder and harder to live in a country that resembles the one that Gen X or millennials grew up in. Never mind baby boomers. The degree to which foreigners have reshaped this country and all of the West is truly staggering to comprehend. Take a moment now to look at all three factors leading to the rise in housing costs that we've addressed. First, the people.
I'm glad he's summarizing it. I mean, one thing he should probably mention is just the inability for families to stay together. You know, because if houses keep being broken and then people can't stay together, they don't want to be married, then, you know, each person needs their house and this and that. That's going to affect.
Only want to live in a few places. Second, urban crime.
Okay, people only wanting to live in a few places, urban crime. Third one's going to be immigration.
Many prime locations unlivable. Third, immigration has the dual issue of causing more pressure on our strapped housing market while also reducing the number of desirable areas to live. Now, what you have between these three factors is a perfect storm, basically, but they're not all. A fourth reason for skyrocketing housing.
Here we go.
costs is terrible public policy, which obviously dovetails with the other three we've talked about. Government regulations and codes are making it more expensive to build new housing supply, particularly in places like coastal California, places that have developed huge amounts of housing in the past decade, like Austin, Texas, have seen rents stabilize or even decline. Anti-growth places like Boston and San Francisco, where it's basically impossible to build anything, have seen prices skyrocket. The U.S. population in 1990 was about 250 million people. Today, it's about 350 million people. It's a 40% increase. In 1990, San Francisco had 328,000 housing units. Today, it has only 415,000, which is a 25% increase. The rise of NIMBYs in places like San Francisco and the counties around it are making it impossible to deal with the demand surge from a constantly growing population. At this point, you're probably thinking, what about places where you can build, places where there isn't urban crime and places without a lot of immigration? Why are places like northern Michigan or Stowe, Vermont, or coastal Maine also getting so expensive? Well, this is
good question.
Related to the previous points. People want to live in places that resemble 1950s America. Go to Vermont or coastal Maine or northern Michigan, and you can find that. And there's a huge trend to people fleeing diversity, the wonders of diversity, to those areas. But there's also a fifth and very important overlooked reason for rising homeownership costs, and that is inflation. The government has doubled the amount of money that was in circulation during COVID, meaning the value of the dollar is declining, which in turn inflates the dollar cost of homes. This is one of the consequences of being $40 trillion in debt.
Okay, good points. I think I got my dose of Matt Walsh for the next couple of months. Let's just go ahead and see what the comments say. Somebody is purchasing these homes. Maybe we start with the law banning home ownership for non-citizens. I agree that property taxes are out of control, as is homeowners insurance. Property taxes are a freaking scam, unconstitutional, and should be totally abolished. No one owns their home in America. You rent it from the government by paying them property tax. Well, Shaka was letting us know about that earlier. When you let 100 million people in the country over a 40-year period, these things happen. I live in Kansas City, Kansas, and have a friend who just got beat out on 7 house offers by people moving to KC area from California, offering thousands over asking or full cash offers. Man, that's crazy. California people come to the Midwest and jack up our prices, and the affordability continues to crumble, as does the voter base. It all feels so futile. Hey, Klaus, welcome in, man. We were waiting for you. Were you watching the game? Let me see how that's doing, actually. I need to know if Argentina won or Switzerland. Oh, my God, it's 1-1. Nice. Oh, are they going to do penalty kicks? It's tight. The way I got no idea. We'll see. I'm just going to keep this on quietly while I hang out here. Thanks for that, Klaus. Hope you're doing well. Okay. Back to it. Cities also don't want home values to decrease because that decreases their taxes. I grew up in a 1,200 square foot house. Oh, I remember, Klaus. Yeah, that's right. I remember you saying you don't care about soccer. I grew up in a 1,200 square foot house with both parents and a brother. We were very middle class, though some would probably consider us lower middle class. Dad was an enlisted man in the Army. Mom was a secretary working for the state. Vacation was tent camping and renting an old fishing boat for a few days. Still sounds like a pretty chill vacation. Cars were used and nothing fancy. But we ate good, home-cooked meals and never lacked for anything. Coffee was Folgers in a can. I had a paper route to earn my own pocket money. Somehow we survived. That was a cool comment to read. I pay $700 per month in property tax on my home. I'm getting totally ripped off, paying exorbitant lot rent to the government on my own property. How's this even legal? Okay, well, what gutted me was seeing my childhood home my parents sold in 2020 for $280K being sold for $420K. With no upgrades in 2025. My gosh. I want to see more about that. Well, it's always kind of funny watching families sell whatever future they had. I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about. They're doing the last half of overtime for penalty. Okay, thank you for that. I can go ahead and not pay attention to that. Okay, so I got a second video, which is this one. It's probably more of the same. So you know, we'll see how that is. Let me see if I got any Instagram brain rot just for the fun of it. Oh my God. A lot of these are pretty stupid. I mean, I just saved these because it was funny. Let's see. Okay. No. Oh, this one's kind of funny. Oh, I might have showed you guys that one already. Let's see. One more. Okay. We got three Instagram brain rots. And then we'll get to the next video. All right, let's see here. What's up with this? Me in 50 years when Netflix does a documentary about dating in 2026.
I just put this right here. Which camera I look into? Right here. I'm gonna tell you about the dating in 2026. And dating was fucking awful. Oh, it was so goddamn bad. Everybody was lying. Niggas was lying. Bitches was lying. Every man started asking every woman what they brought to the table.
Yep.
Funny thing about it is, niggas didn't even own a table. Didn't even have their own house. Women had their asses out everywhere. Turned the TV on, ass. Gas station, Walmart, Target, Starbucks, ass. DoorDash, ass. Everybody had kids. It was just, it was.
Okay. There's one. Hyper gaming. Oh, gosh. Don't wait 50 years. This is now. Okay. Okay, next one. That one was fun. All right, men's fiction books versus women's fiction books. Let's see what we got.
He stared into the void, and the void looked back into him, and they all looked together. He was alone. He had to do this alone. Daryl had such a big, thick, throbbing wallet. And Randy had wings and magic. He knew he would have to give up his life for his friends. The quest and the journey became questing, journeying. He was the man. He was the only one that could do it. Oh, touch me there. Grab me. You will never, ever take my powers from me. I have powers. And men need powers. And I have to do it alone. Oh, she said as he put his big EBT card into the ATM machine.
Okay. Okay, that's enough of that. I've always said men are the truly romantic gender. 578 pages about one guy alone in the woods, trying to become worthy of his own existence. And in the final chapter, there's no happy ending. Just dying for people who will never know, even know he loved them. He was alone, and he had to do it alone. The Minotaur's missing. I know, right? That's the only thing. Sir, please stay out of our books. And every woman was jealous of her, and she was super rich. And although her husband beat her, he was super hot, so it was okay and romantic in a way. Surely some book meant for a woman somewhere. The quest and journey became questing journey. Yo, Brute Man, thank you for that. I believe that's 300 rupees. I blame institutional real estate investors for inflating home prices, both in the USA and in many parts of the globe. Oh man. You know, Brute Man, we're in tough times. We got to be patient. We got to be strategic. We got to be long-term thinking and focused. Yeah, like Kevin Samuels used to say, you know, winter is here. Thank you for that donation, though, man. I truly do appreciate that. Thanks for contributing to the dowry fund here. Men's fiction. I have superhuman abilities and will use them to fight crime. women's fiction. I am able to fit something the length of my forearm in as big around the soda. Okay. Whenever my husband flirts with me, he always says, "Did I mention that I'm a millionaire?" Okay, no, that was fun. All right, another one. All right, this will be the last brain rot. Okay, here goes.
Fat fuck.
You didn't say anything.
So catching strays for no reason. Okay, I just thought that was funny. All right, moving along, folks. We're moving to the next video. This will probably be the last one. You know what, man? Let's do one more brain rot. You know what? 2 more brain rots. I'm sorry. Here we go. This has nothing to do with anything. When the UFC commentator puts all your business out for the world to hear.
Both of these fighters have dealt with custody battles involving their children. Andre Yule's son Eli is 7 and as of this broadcast does not have rights to see him, does not know where his son. Both of these fighters have dealt with custody battles involving their children. Andre Yule's son Eli is 7 and as of this broadcast does not have rights to see him, does not know where his son.
Yeah, you know why they got to put that out there, kind of messed up. As he fights tonight, he's also fighting for custody of his 7-year-old son. The baby mama controls the notes for the commentator. How are you going to be that tall and not be able to see where your son is? He will be fighting for his life tonight to show his son that he is doing it for him. Stay tuned, folks. Like, it's not funny to make fun of this, but it's so ridiculous. 300 Indian rupees is around $3. Oh, thanks for that, man. $3 is that's more than I deserve, man. Thank you. In Germany, there's a lot of regulations when building a house, which makes it really expensive, man. UFCRP. You can buy a small coffee while going on a walk this weekend instead of the dowry fund. 3 USD is an incredibly small amount. That's okay. You know what? I'll keep that in mind. I'll think about spending $3 in a special place, and I'll have to report back to you about where I spent that at. But I do appreciate the donation. That means a lot. Okay, so, oh man, black UFC fighters, the others don't get this treatment. Oh man, come on, we didn't ask for the autoplay. Like, still trying to figure out why he spilled the tea like that. Okay, one more. This is why I'm single too. See what this guy has to say.
You know I've been single my whole life?
What?
Dong. Way too big.
Nice.
You know I've been...
Okay. That was some true brain rot. I apologize for that. I apologize. Okay, let's just see what this guy has to say. It's more about the housing market. The housing market truth. Home ownership is now a privilege for the rich. Is this doom and gloom? I think Financial Frontier would disagree, but let's see.
A lot of people are very upset, right?
Argentina just scored another goal. It's now 2-1 against Switzerland. Switzerland, they don't got much time.
Now that entering the housing market has become a rich person's game only, because it is extremely expensive to buy a home. You need to make about $140,000 a year now just to be able to qualify for the America's median price home. And in some cities across America, saving for a down payment will take you 65 years before...
65 years to save up for a down payment? I don't know. That sounds like a long time. I mean, I guess if you're living by yourself and you're only able to save like $400 a month or something, that's...
Even being able to buy, guys, and that's if you start from day one. So imagine, you're 65 years old, you've been saving since you were an infant somehow, and now you can finally afford to buy, which is completely unreasonable. We'll talk more about that later in this video, and I'll give you some ideas of places where it doesn't take 65 years to save for a down payment. But here's the thing. According to Harvard University, in 2020,
this was the article that we were talking about, and this is what gave me the idea to look at it.
They had a report that says you were never supposed to be able to buy a home, only inherit one, because that's how things were prior to World War II. And there was a big change in the housing market after World War II because there was a massive boom in homes built, and the economy here had a massive boom as well. But they're saying that was basically just the golden era of real estate in America, and that we're never going to see anything like that ever again.
But guys, is this true? Oh, man.
The problem is it set this expectation where the average middle-class worker in the country could expect to buy a home on a reasonable salary. And that has been true from the 1940s, probably up until really the mid-2000s. Up until the last 5 or 10 years, housing has become pretty unaffordable. I would even argue that pre-pandemic, housing was still relatively affordable compared to what it is now. When you looked at what home prices were compared to wages, a lot of people could still afford to buy, and buying or renting was more of a choice rather than a forced situation. And we've been through stuff like this before. For example, in 1970, 50% of American families could afford to buy the median price home. And by 1975, that number had fallen to 27%. So affordability really fell off a cliff back then, kind of like what's happening right now. And researchers at the time, they were warning that if that trend continued, that the average home would cost $78,000 by the 1980s, which seemed
back then that was too high.
A shocking number back then. And of course today, the median price home is about $417,000. But Harvard says that the US economy after World War II created a unique combination of government policy and economic conditions that no longer exist. And it's true if you look at it. Things like the GI Bill came about, federally backed mortgages, which is something we do still have, highway expansion, abundant, inexpensive land, and strong union wage growth allowed millions of ordinary workers to buy homes. And during a lot of that time, wages consistently grew faster than home prices and probably outpaced inflation as well, because guess what? Back then, the dollar was still attached to something that had value. We were still on the gold standard up until 1971.
Heroes Forge took some time to explain some of those changes to
And
me.
now all of that has disappeared, guys. It's all over with. Everything has completely changed. Union membership has been on the decline for a while. Wage growth has really been stagnant since we went off the gold standard in 1971. If you look at wages when adjusted for inflation, they've been essentially flat for the last 50-something years. And at the same time, we've seen inflation go through the roof. Right now, the median price home across America sells for about 5 times what the median household income is, which is just the average, guys. Across the country, there are markets where it's higher and lower than that. But in the 1990s, it was only about 3.2 times.
Remember the World Economic Forum's Agenda 2030 slogan, "You will own nothing and you will be happy." I think the WEF elites are setting their plans in motion. Scary stuff. Oh, man. Yeah, well, you're taking me... I don't know why. I'm just kind of going back and just thinking about the conversations around all this stuff from like back when I was in college, you know, in like 2010, 2011, all throughout that time until now, and people complaining about it back then. And now what prices are, it's like people wish they were buying before COVID. Van life is the move. Thank you again for that. Super chat, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, and you know, with the whole owning nothing and being happy, I mean, I think a lot of people, if they stay single or they don't get married and they don't have families, it might be tough to kind of make the argument for owning a home versus renting some smaller dwelling out there or something like that. I wouldn't want to live in a home by myself, but I also don't really care for apartment living. So people are going to have to do what they got to do. Enjoy the weekend with a nice cup of coffee. Thank you. Well, you know what? I'm actually going to go get some pizza tomorrow because I was looking to treat myself, and my buddy started a new job. So he just finished his first week. So we're about to go go to this really good place that makes some nice brick oven pizzas. They're actually really nice, and they sell some good tea over there. So that $5 you gave me, that'll come in handy for a nice cup of tea after that pizza. Thank you, Brute Man. The reason they call it the American Dream is because you have to be asleep to believe it. George Carlin, shout out, Kyle. Thanks for that comment.
The median income, which meant that housing was very affordable in the 1990s. And 3 times the median salary is...
Well, let me ask you guys in the poll. Do you think it is true that the recent housing affordability in our history, especially in America, was a fluke? I don't know if fluke is the right word, but maybe we could say was abnormal, ? So let's get rid of that. Is it true? Well, let's just say, do you agree? Your question is too long. Do you agree that let's take out that. Do you agree the recent housing affordability in our history, especially in America, was abnormal? Okay. I'm talking from post World War II through the 90s, basically. Enjoy your cup of tea, Shaw. Thank you for that, Brute Man. Okay. Because it's, from what we're hearing, man, it's probably never going to be like that. I just can't help but think how this will change things when it comes to family dynamics and American culture and culture in other places too that are dealing with these same trends, frankly.
About where housing needs to be, historically speaking, for it to be considered affordable. Median mortgage payments are now sitting at around $2,400 to $2,700, depending on the source that you look at, for a 30-year fixed mortgage, and that's double what people were paying just back in 2020.
Dang.
$2,400 to $2,700, depending on the source that you look at, for a 30-year fixed mortgage, and that's double
Argentina 3-1.
what people were paying just back in 2020. So 6 years, mortgage payments have doubled, guys. How is that sustainable? Yes, do some people make double what they did 6 years ago? Sure. How many people? Probably less than 10% of Americans. According to the report, they say only 16% of renter households earn the median income of $120,800 a year needed to afford that median priced home. And just look, back in 2019, 49% of homes that were for sale were affordable to households.
Klaus, you sound like you live in a very beautiful place, man. I love that for you. I like living alone in my house. I have space for my home gym, and I have a small spare apartment if friends stay over. And I love my backyard with trees and my plot for growing veggies. That sounds beautiful, man. What kind of vegetables do you grow, if you don't mind me asking? I'm very curious.
Earning $75,000. 9% of homes that were for sale were $1,800 a year needed to afford that median priced home. And just look, back in 2019, 49% of homes that were for sale were affordable to households earning $75,000 or less a year. By March of 2026, that figure has fallen to 23% of homes are affordable on a $75,000 a year salary. And the median household income across America is about $84,000, guys. So that lines up with the statistic that I've been repeating over the past couple of years, which is that the average American can only afford about 25% of the homes that are for sale, which means 75% of the homes that are for sale are completely unaffordable. And so right now, your best shot at becoming a homeowner in the United States is inheriting one. That's the harsh reality that
inheriting one.
Your dowry, it's my right.
Which one of these broads has the richest father?
no one wants to look at. So the research shows us that inheriting a house is the most likely way that anybody who's probably under 40 right now is going to become a homeowner in their lifetime.
Man, it sounds crazy. You know what I mean? It almost sounds embellished, but you know, gosh.
Not saying that you can't do it on your own.
Hi, Base. Hey, welcome in, man. It's good to see you. I will say that home ownership, to not have a family, is silly. But also, you kind of need a family to afford a home. It's a puzzlement. Yeah, I mean, I guess if it was a small house or something, but I never really imagined buying a house unless I was figuring that out as the result of a marriage, you know. For myself, it's not something that I think about. I mean, maybe. Great to see you in here, Base. Hope you're doing well. I haven't seen a video from you in a bit. I'll have to go check your channel, see if you posted anything recently. We're in quite the predicament, Base. We've just been watching these videos here. One from Matt Walsh, one from this gentleman here, Michael Bordenero, about this Harvard report.
But this is the most likely
Thank you,
way.
Gio. Appreciate
and so
that. Argentina
if you
won.
look at your life and you say...
They'll be playing France, I believe. And France is who I usually cheer for.
Well, I don't have any parents or grandparents or rich aunts or uncle who own a house and are going to pass it to me. Well, that's your cue to figure out a way to do it yourself if it's something that you want to do. And I know it's easier said than done, but I'm here to give you guys that reality check. That's what I do here on this channel.
It's going to mostly have to be done through marriage, and both people got to bring something.
Your dowry, it's my right.
I think we're moving, if all this stuff is true, we're moving back to a kind of quasi-dowry system here. Because people are going to have to just be a lot more prudent and long-term minded. Like, you're going to have to really think about your marriage. You can't afford a divorce if houses are this expensive, you know. Tomatoes, potatoes, greens, beans, potatoes, tomatoes. This is what Klaus grows in his backyard. This is tight. So tomatoes, potatoes, radishes, onions, and carrots mostly. I also have a cherry tree, 2 apple trees, a pear tree, and a nectarine tree. Man, you're living life. You're living life. That's a dream, man. To have some space, to have some fruit. I do have a peach tree, which I'm very proud of. Some fruit trees, some veggies. And if you got a little bit more space, maybe you can get some chickens running around. That's the way right there, Klaus. Thank you for that. Median household income is $84,000. How many people are forming households these days or are expected to in the years to come? I mean, they're going to really need to take a serious look at that if they hope to figure out how to live, you know, in a home and own a home. France will win, according to many. Well, here's hoping. I mean, that's usually who I cheer for, you know, because I've just been doing that for a long time. Yeah, it's been a minute. I've been in a cocoon. Hey, man, that's, you know, that's if anything, maybe that's good. I hope you've been having a good time in being in this kind of meditative phase, you can say. And that maybe you've had time and blessings to just focus on things, and maybe old memories and thought patterns from the past have welled up on some of your daily walks, and you've been able to deal with those and maybe reach a new understanding, which would be pretty cool, you know, and get into some other stuff. So nice, man. Brute Man says, in Bombay, Mumbai, which I'm living currently, the residential home prices are astronomical for those earning an Indian rupee. My only hope of becoming a homeowner, inheriting one. Same stuff here too. Yeah, man. You know what's crazy? I was reading something about South Korea. Recently their birth rate went over replacement, and it's basically because of a state funding, you can say. I think there's like some subsidized housing going on. You could pretty much call it a state funded dowry. Let me just see if I can find an article on that. South Korea birth rate recently went above replacement. I hope I'm not completely making stuff up to you guys. I saw this somewhere. Okay, never mind. Oh, it surged 18%, 22 months straight. That's what it was. Humblest apologies. It has not gone above replacement level. So I spoke too soon. I was talking to Big Game. Here it is, though. South Korea births surge 18%, 22 months straight as marriages hit decade high. So the question is, well, how did they do this? All right, come on, tell us. Give us the goodies. Damn. Natural increase. No. There was something I know I had seen somewhere that about these different programs they were doing over there. This is not very well, let me see. South Korea surging recently. Go bleu, le bleu. Allez le bleu. Man. Yeah, I would man, it would be great to see him win. This makes the dowry so insanely relevant. Thank you, Jax Ollie. See, you're getting it. This is what every time I see this, that's what I think about. I never thought about it like this, especially since women will essentially be the middle-class breadwinners in the next few years. It absolutely does make it relevant. And that's why I shared that article from 1936 in the Depression, because the same thing was happening. So, you know, we'll be watching that. Klaus, this is a fulfilling life. It's a beautiful life. Shout out to Klaus. Argentina scored a goal in the last minute of overtime. That's crazy. Yeah, that would have just put the last nail in the coffin on that for Switzerland. Great discussion with Paul, Rolo, and Mike the other day. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, we got to show the images again. Yeah, it was this is an artistic representation of what happened on the debate on Paul Elam's channel with Paul Elam and I and Michael Sartain and Rolo. It was pretty much this. Thank you, Dan the Man, for these photos. As you could see, this is the gold pill spear that we've been fashioning on this channel. We've been forging this thing for the last like almost 2 years. And, you know, we kind of ended up having to put this in action against some of the gatekeepers in the space, to use the word gatekeeper. So Paul and I had to go deep into the red pill underworld here recently. Mike was all butthurt. Yeah, man. Man, I mean, we could probably read some of the comments on that. Maybe I'll save it. We don't got to read the comments on the debate. Yeah, we do got to get back to this, though. Oh, let me end this poll. 62% of you guys said no, huh? But the Harvard report said it was. Come on. Hold on. Okay, maybe it's in here somewhere. All right, you guys ready to get bored? Because we're about to do some academic reading for about 3 to 5 minutes. Across the U.S., persistent affordability challenges and rising economic uncertainty are hurting housing markets. Weakening labor markets and plummeting immigration have dampened household growth. Isn't that interesting? Plummeting immigration has dampened household growth. Okay. And mobility. Sales of existing homes. Oh, did I lose my gold pill spear? I like it. Yeah, I always, for some reason, envision a spear. Harvard is no longer reputable. Well, it's very possible they could have been taken over. They could have been co-opted by certain big money guys or people. Although markets are, okay, let's see. Sales of existing homes sit at 3-decade lows and inventories are rising in the face of high home buying costs. In the multifamily segment, rents fell, demand slipped, and vacancies rose, although markets are struggling to absorb a wave of new deliveries. Cost burdens have hit another record high for renters and worsened for homeowners. And assistance remains profoundly underfunded in response to federal retrenchment on numerous housing policies. States and localities are seeking new tools to bring down costs and protect their most vulnerable residents. States and localities are seeking new tools to bring down costs. I wonder what those tools are. I wonder what those tools are. A failure to provide low-cost housing. This paper is seeming to lean some kind of way. I could be wrong here. The U.S. faces interlocking housing crises, affordability, homelessness, climate change, and discrimination that demand coordinated action across federal, state, local, private, nonprofit actors. Okay. New construction is not providing low-cost housing. Government must help increase the supply. Okay, so we might have a state-funded dowry coming in here. This sounds like where this is going. Okay, anyways. Let's see. I just want to see what the AI gives me. What is leading to the surge for the South Koreans here? South Korea's historic birth rate surge is primarily driven by an echo boomer demographic bubble, a massive post-pandemic marriage boom, and aggressive new government and corporate financial incentives. All right, I want to hear about the financial incentives. The state rolled out massive housing subsidies, extended parental leave, and removed long-standing tax and financial marriage penalties. So housing subsidies is a big one. So that's kind of like what this Harvard report is almost saying needs to happen in some ways. There's definitely differences of opinions there politically. I'll say that. All right, enough of the torture, guys. We'll go back to the video.
But one thing I'm not saying, guys, is that it's impossible to do it by yourself. That is absolutely not the case. There are millions of younger Americans who are still doing it on their own. And you should be proud of yourself if you did it on your own without any external help. But also just realize that the housing market is coming down, guys. Things are working in your favor. We're going to talk more about this in a little bit here.
Okay, so he's saying it's coming down.
But one thing that everybody has to understand is that everybody has been sold a lie over the past few decades from real estate agents and mortgage brokers, which is that the 30-year mortgage is a fixed payment for life, and it is not. According to Bankrate's data as of last year, it costs homeowners an additional $21,000 per year to be a homeowner when you factor in taxes, insurance, utilities, internet, and maintenance. That's in addition to your mortgage payment. The most common regret that new homeowners have today is the sheer amount of upkeep and hidden costs that they didn't know they were signing up for when they became a homeowner. And if you've never owned a house before and you've always been a renter, this is one of the biggest surprises of becoming a homeowner, is just how much extra it actually does cost to be a homeowner. You cannot just look at your monthly mortgage payment compared to what you're paying in rent and say, oh, well, this is
Well, you know, something is always breaking and needs to be fixed. So that's part of life right there.
$300 a month cheaper to buy. In the end, it is not going to be $300 a month cheaper to buy because of all these additional expenses. But here's some glimmer of hope for people who have been shut out of this housing market, guys, okay? The latest home price data to come out from CoreLogic Case-Shiller Home Price Index showed that home prices nationwide have gone up 0.8% year over year as of April. Remember, the May CPI report came out at 4.2%. We just got the PPE numbers today or yesterday, whatever it was, and that was 4.1% inflation, guys. And home price.
Bruteman says 18% increase in birth rate, considering it was below 1 births per woman, is too small an increase. Yeah, that's true. That is very true. South Korean fertility rate is still way below 2.1 births per woman. Replacement fertility rate. Yeah, so it seems like it's had a marginal effect, if any. So we'll have to keep watching.
Prices went up 0.8%, which means when adjusted for inflation, home prices are effectively going negative. They keep trying to use this narrative and scare people and say home prices continue to go up, up, and up. And that's the median home price. That's based mostly on homes that are selling at $750,000 and above, because that's where the lion's share of home sales are taking place over the past couple years in this market. So that keeps that median figure climbing, even though it doesn't represent the full picture. And then it doesn't account for inflation, which is probably the most important aspect to all of this, because inflation is what determines how much of anything people can afford, including housing. This is actually good news, guys. The fact that home
positive news.
Prices are now rising at a much slower rate than inflation is good news for anybody who hasn't bought a house.
I hope wages are going up a little bit too.
Bad news about that is that inflation makes everything in your life cost more, so it can make it more difficult to save up enough to become a homeowner. That's why I'm always telling people that you need to eliminate your debts, and at the same time, you need to find ways to increase your income, even if it's only a few $100s a month. Because if you're able to eliminate $300 a month in debt and increase your income $300 a month, you just created $600 a month of extra money for yourself.
Okay, let's see. Why the current housing crisis?
To anymore. And this is what I've been telling people. I'm trying to hammer this into people's brains so everyone who watches my video understands this, okay? You might not see home prices fall the 40 to 50% that we did back in 2008 simply because we didn't have the inflation that we had back then, okay? But you might see 20% price drops, and then when accounting for all the inflation happening at the same time, that can equal a 40 to 50% price drop in real terms, just not in nominal terms. And that's one fundamental difference from the housing crash that's happening right now versus the housing crash that happened in 2008. It's not exactly the same. It doesn't look exactly the same on paper, but it sure does rhyme. And the end results are going to be basically the same, even if we get there in a slightly different way. And today I'm walking down Blackfield Drive and Clare Way here in Tiburon, California. And so
Tiburon, very expensive.
Going back to our Harvard study, guys, this is one of the main reasons also why most people are not going to be able to become homeowners unless you are doing what I'm telling you to do and reducing debts and increasing.
Man, and it's like, if you do become a homeowner, you're one of these fewer people that figure it out. It's like, you have to be extra. Like, I just think about the marriage point. Like, your marriage has to be solid. You really have to be smart about how you bargain for marriage to put so much down on the line like that, you know?
Your dowry, it's my right.
I'll probably cut this soon.
Income and living below your means, the chances of you being able to become a homeowner are not looking too good right now. And obviously there's other factors involved, like the job market is one of the worst job markets any of us have ever seen in our lifetime. There's so many jobs being lost, so few being created. The jobs that do exist oftentimes do not have adequate pay to keep up with today's cost of living.
See, that's the main thing. It's like, if the wages aren't going up with inflation, I'm not sure how this is. I want what he's saying to make sense and be right, but I'm also a little doubtful, but, you know, maybe I'm just not understanding. Klaus says that's not how inflation works. If the inflation is higher than the price increase of houses, the houses are getting cheaper, but they are not getting more affordable. Income isn't increasing fast. Well, that's the part that I was wondering about, is how is wage growth going alongside of both of these other two metrics? House in your name only. Yeah, you know, Don, I think what's going to happen is, see, back in the day when people got married, you used to have this thing called the marriage settlement agreement. And, you know, nowadays we kind of have this, like a prenup that some people do. But you remember I did that lunch cast about how prenups are becoming more popular. So it's like, I think the marriage settlement agreement will kind of reemerge also as economic conditions get harsher, probably more so in the guise of a prenup, basically. You know, and people will probably just be more grateful to take the deal. It's like, if you got a house, or, you know, you're able to get a house, then it's like, you not wanting to put that in you know, or put most of your investment in community property is like a fair thing. It's like, I could see a prenup where it's like both parties invest into a house and the prenup defines who paid what into the house. And if the divorce happens, they at least get that money. Unless the house value went down, of course, then it would be proportional to that. Like, I could just see prenups being used in a way that can hopefully help smooth this out. I know a lot of people have a negative view of prenups. I'm just trying to think, as the stakes go higher, you know, maybe people will take prenups a lot more seriously too. So we'll see.
But the good news about all of this, though, is that this crash is actually happening on a slower time frame, which gives you more time to figure out your next move. You know, things are not happening as fast as they did in 2008 because we don't have a sudden catalyst to make home prices go down as fast as they did back then. But because they're coming down slower but more steadily and consistently, and inflation continues to outpace any sort of growth in the market, that works in your favor as a would-be buyer in the future, somebody who aspires to still become a homeowner. And all.
Okay, well, I mean, that's an interesting note, you know. Let's see what the comments say on this. Turning houses in an investment instead of a place to live is what ruined the market. There is no American dream, just old money. A house payment of $2,500 a month kind of makes a car payment of $1,000 a month look a little better. Both are nuts. This just goes to show the outrageous state of our country right now. In 1975, I rented a 2-bedroom house for $75,000. I'll be honest, like for me, you know, kind of looking to the past of what prices were, I'm kind of over looking to the past. I'm just more like, this is what the prices are now, and I'm just accepting that, and, you know, let's just deal with what's right in front of us. But okay, in 1975, I rented a 2-bedroom house for $75,000 per month. I was working as a welder then for about $150 per week. This was in Sherman, Texas. I could easily walk to downtown Sherman from my house. The term homeowner is a misnomer. Being indebted would be more accurate. Happy 4th of July. Okay. The most successful men I've known lived in modest homes. Interesting observation. You are correct, Michael. Elimination of debt is the key to continue to be economically viable. People are blinded by this extreme wealth, and it manipulates their minds into making bad financial decisions to impress people that you can't impress. They want you to mismanage your money so that they can see you self-destruct. I'm terrified to buy another house. I've had to sell 4 properties now because of poop neighbors. At least renting, I can move when stupidity moves in. Stop the ghost bids and we will be able to buy a house. Happy $40 trillion in debt day, y'all. Even if you are fortunate enough to have parents that actually own their home, it is likely they will have to pull the equity out of it to get through senior years, leaving little to nothing to inherit. Well, no one is ever a homeowner. You still have to pay property taxes or they'll take your home from you. All right, folks. Well, you know, that was a lot of good stuff. People are getting poorer. Never good when the barrier to entry is that high and the margin for error is so low. Yeah, I hear you. I thought so too, Klaus. Yes, and so many jobs are lost due to AI and automation. There's no hope for Gen Z and younger millennial people to purchase homes unless they inherit them. I saw an article recently about apparently like the Gen Z, there's more Gen Z living with their parents. Like it's a much higher rate than it's been for a few generations. So all that matches, you know. Yo, Mr. Pitt, welcome in, man. People are less. Mr. Pitt, did you see the debate on Paul Elam's channel? I just wanted to share some artwork with you if you hadn't seen it. Dan the Man made these. An artistic representation of what happened Wednesday. Oh yeah. Inspired from the video game God of War. Okay. All right. Yeah, anyways. People are less motivated because feminism ruined women, plus consumerism and credit debt. Pay to rent everything. My theory is they are trying to erase the word own from the history books. Yeah, Fellas, we got to be extremely sharp and very forward thinking and exercise a lot of forethought in the coming years. So, you know, I think the good thing is, especially for folks who kind of lean like more MGTOW-ish, in the sense of like avoiding a lot of unnecessary stuff and just being able to save, stack your cash, avoid debt, not try to spend things on trying to impress people. I think, you know, for what he was talking about, that this will gradually happen. I think conceivably in the next, like, even 5 to 10 years, you know, if you live diligently, you can still carve out, you know, a decent living for yourself. Something respectable. You know, I hope that's the case. I believe that's the case. So, you know, that was pretty much all I had for tonight. I'm a little tired than usual, but we'll get something going next week. I do plan on posting the Rich Cooper. I'm going to edit the Rich Cooper footage probably tomorrow, maybe Monday evening. And I do hope to have that posted by the end of the week. So you'll see my discussion with Rich Cooper. Gosh, what song do I want to play? There we go. Yeah. No, I didn't see the debate. Oh, that's okay, Mr. Pitt. No worries, man. You know, if you ever get curious, you can go check it out. It's all good, though. You know, we're chilling. Cool artwork, Dan the Man. I know. We got to bring the artwork up one more time. Yeah. If you do go watch the debate, Mr. Pitt, this is what you're going to see. It's essentially this. Man, what's up with my music? Is that not loud enough? My bad, guys. There we go. Volume. Bye, Shot. Have a nice weekend ahead. Thank you, Brute Man. You as well, man. I hope you enjoy yourself in beautiful Mumbai. And you know what, man? Can you have like a real, just nice organic mango over there for me, please? Because I know the mangoes you're getting over there are better than the ones I'm getting over here. Shout out to you. Have a good night, brother. Take it easy, Financial Frontier. Hey, thanks for hanging out the whole time, man. That means a lot. Guys, if you could check out Financial Frontier USA's channel, he does live streams as well. So, you know, maybe keep him in mind or subscribe and go ahead and check it out. Where we got 19 people, 17 likes. A little quieter today, but we're chilling. Looking forward to the Rich video. I gotta get that out. I put it on the back burner because I was, you know, preparing for this debate, but that's done, so we can get this content back out now. So I gotta do that. I got some other stuff in the pipeline, you know, so when it materializes, that'll be pretty cool. Nothing too crazy, but we'll see. But you know, pretty chill though, pretty chill. Let's see, one more song. I do want to play one more song. I know Mr. Pitt likes this song. I hope I've made some of the case tonight about how a dowry system could potentially revive based off of current conditions. Let's see what dowry revival is. Okay, there's that one. Oh, better get my dowry. I like this one. Mr. Pitt, if you do watch the debate, man, I'm curious what your thoughts are on it. Hope everybody has a fantastic week ahead of them and enjoys their Sunday tomorrow.
a celebration. Me and my family getting crunk up at the congregation. We'll be hooting and a hollering and watching the Father bring the dollars in.
All right, legends. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace out. Till next time.